What up, guys? Annie's here, Anime Familia, gonna be doing another recording for A Wild Last Boss Appeared, Volume 1, page 100. So we're like more or less halfway done with this volume. But yeah, let's continue where we left off. Okay, so from what I remember last time, Magrez, I think that's how you say his name, he finally appeared. Literally he looks exactly how I pictured him, or at least had an idea. I didn't consider him. Is he handicapped? Because he arrives on a chair. Not sure if that holds any significance. But let's continue. I'm sorry. Anyway, like rabbits weren't weren't individually all that strong. Yeah, we all know rabbits aren't that strong. Like this, Levia might actually win. Even if ARIES does show himself, there was a difference in their levels, but ARIES stats aren't that great in the first place. While on the other hand, Levia's got 1 foot in boss status. It's got no feet though, but Levia also had the complete support of its creator, and more than anything, the water dragon had the leverage of their compatibility to each other. Oh, okay. So yeah, Levia pretty much is overall like has full control of the outcome of the situation. Not sure what's gonna happen once ARIES gets here. ARIES element is fire, right? And it looks like Magrez made preparations for him. Right, bringing out this water golem. So we all know how type advantages work, right? We learned this from Pokemon. This might actually be checkmate already. I probably won't be able to, but I guess I should at least try to check Magrez's stats. The skill Observing Eye would only display stats if I was double the target's level or more. Anything over that and all I'll get was the name and level, and it doesn't need to be said what happened if we were the same level or if he was stronger. That's why I know that I won't see anything even if I try to turn the skill on Magrez, but well, just in case. Magrez level 500, Jesus. Race elf, class levels, mage 100. Sorcerer 100. Jesus Christ. That HP though. Strength 900. It looks okay, so he excels at intelligence and mind. He's the intellectual type. Bad status, lower half paralyzed, mark of the vanquished. Interesting. Okay. Seems like his weakest stat is agility, which I can kind of see that given the fact that we literally see him in a wheelchair. So I'm assuming he isn't as mobile. So he uses his wits to get through his opponent. Anyway, it totally let me see everything. Wait, isn't Magrez totally weak right now? And he's got some weird status condition on him too. Like, what the hell is the mark of the vanquished? I do get the whole lower half paralyzed thing though. Right. Okay, so yeah, he is paralyzed from the waist down. Dinah, yes, what is it? It looks like Magrez has some weird thing called Mark of the Vanquished. On him. We don't know of it. What is it? Whenever I'm in trouble, I just ask Dinah. That's the first and easiest method I've learned since coming to this world. I'm really thankful for having someone right by me that has all the knowledge that I've missed over the last 200 years. Dinah didn't know anything that would mean it wasn't a problem of me missing the last 200 years. Just knowing that was a relief. Ah, so that condition does exist. That means the rumors were true. Rumors? Yes, I should have already told you about how the 7 heroes were defeated by the Devil King. But to tell you the truth, there's been rumors that the heroes were cursed by the Devil King after their defeat. Devil King? Cursed, huh? That must really be annoying. So, is Magress only paralyzed from the waist down because of a curse, or what happened there? I think I remember hearing from somewhere that it's the curse fault that they can only bring out half their original strength. That's why, if the curse is real, Levia really is their last line of defense. Damn. Sounds like her subordinates haven't been really doing that well in the past 200 years. I think I remember hearing from somewhere that if it's the curse's fault that they can only... Oh wait, I already read that, my bad. It looks like on top of having his levels halved, he's lost several classes. Whoa, that's pretty mean. Doesn't that mean he'll never be able to make a golem of that level again? If Magress' weakening was all thanks to the Mark of the Vanquished, then it was incredibly fearsome curse. I shuddered in fear. First, the level, clearly it's been halved. On top of that, his stats have also probably been halved. There's no way in hell Magress's intellect would ever be lowered than mine, since he should be specialized in magic and other backline roles. And to have half his class disappear too? That should be a joke, but it isn't. He should have had the Esper and Archer classes among others, but I don't see them anywhere. That Mark of the Vanquish is way too scary. Oh, Miss Lufus, look there, it seems he's appeared. ARIES! The sense of pressure was so clear I could feel it on my skin. It was the feeling of his presence. Having felt that, I looked towards him. Even though he was a ways away, his wool stood out with its rainbow colors that changed depending on the angle you were looking from. Along with his huge body that easily cleared 100 miles in height, he was sporting a downright baleful expression along with a pair of cold, angry eyes. The form of this huge sheep monster made the game's cute chibi character seem like a lie. The heck? ARIES, one of the 12 heavenly stars, the monster that used to be my follower, approached Svel while causing earthquakes. The huge sheep shocked the earth as it walked. The giant dragon raised a cry and tried to intimidate it. Both of them were monsters beyond human kin. Living proof of the age of heroes and also monsters that no human today could stand up against. The strongest golem that Magress created before receiving his curse, Levia, and one of the 12 heavenly stars that used to be under Lufus, ARIES of the Ram. Those two giants who could sap someone's will to fight just by being their opponent, face off against each other while slowly creeping closer to each other's range. Gantz and the others could no longer do anything other than watch events unfold. Or whatever that said. They roared, just that action caused violent winds to break out and froze people on the spot. Probably the only ones who didn't wither in the face of ARIES' roar would be someone of Magress's level, and even for him, a drop of sweat could be seen, sparkling as it rolled down his cheek, giving away that he was just barely holding on. Magress was fully aware that he was far from his best condition. Levia was his masterpiece that he made back in his prime. It was actually stronger than Magress himself right now. That meant that if Levia were to be destroyed, he'd never be able to replace it. If that were to happen, even if they got through this battle, it would mean the death of the country anyway, having lost the cornerstone of their defense. Levia was a detergent that Magress really didn't want to move if he could help it. The golem acted as a restraint, giving others the impression that they shouldn't foolishly attack since they had a guardian deity. That was Levia's role. Damn. A lot riding at stake though. The question is Aries stronger than Levia? That's the question of the day. How strong is Magress compared to this giant creature? In other words, losing Levia equaled the loss of the country. Magress had to somehow keep Levia alive and claim victory over that monster. Go! Victory to those who act first. Magress gave his order to Levia and it flew at Aries. The two monster elements were water and fire. If they were to clash straight on, Levia would have the advantage. Levia's fangs sunk into Aries, but Aries didn't seem affected. The wool covering Aries' body must have interfered, as almost no damage went through. Huh. Interesting. Gura! In return, Aries also bit into Levia. But Levia's body was made of water. Physical attacks held almost no meaning. Levia's body tore apart by Aries' bite, reconstructed as if nothing had happened, and the two of them took their distance and went back to glaring at each other. Huh. So it's a stalemate right now. Aries isn't really doing anything to Levia, and Levia isn't really hurting Aries. It's equal footing. Meh. Aries cried, and his eyes filled with rage and madness glinted. In a flash, Aries opened his mouth and shot out a powerful fire from the opening. The target was Svel. Just now, Aries ignored his opponent Levia and tried to destroy Magress directly. The flames, which melted the ground itself along their path, were intercepted by Levia as it put itself in the way. Oh, okay. So it defended Svel. Was that attack really because Aries was ignoring Levia, or was it intended to make Levia put itself in the way? Either way, if this went on, Levia would no longer be able to move. However, Levia was still Svel's guardian deity, even though it doesn't come near a real god like Aloveness, or even the kin that she spawned. The true dragons, Levia, was still undoubtedly a witness to the Age of Legends. There were 7 elements in this world. Of those, Aloveness presided over 2, and she spawned 5 dragons to preside over the other 5. Levia was made as a guardian deity, intimidating those dragons. Okay. So Levia was the guardian of Spell, and Levia is the only reason this country has even still stood. Right now, man, here's the issue. Levia may have the advantage in terms of elements, but who knows how strong Levia actually is when compared to Aries, because Aries, from what I'm seeing, Aries isn't hindered at all. Magress is. Magress isn't able to produce another incredible deity like Levia. So right now there's... Oof, this is actually a very dangerous situation Svel is in. It literally all comes down to Levia. Unless Lufus decides to interfere. But if he does, then they'll see that the Black Wing Tyrant has returned from the dead. Depending on what Lufus does, according to the tide of this battle, will determine everything ultimately. Let's see. In other words, Levia was nothing but an imitation of those gods. Damn. A replica. However, even as a replica, its power was real. Levia morphed its ever-changing body, letting loose a wave of water spears. Even though Aries managed to evade the sudden attack, Magress made his move, aiming for that gap. Tidal wave. Okay, so Levia's taking the offensive now. He unleashed a high-tier water element spell, one that unleashed a tsunami. In that space that should have been empty, suddenly it was as if the entire area was an ocean, as a giant wave that threatened to engulf even Aries. huge body appeared. Magic was the act of changing the mana in the atmosphere into something else. All it did was fake events and phenomena that would disappear once the magic was over. But while it was happening, the event was definitely real enough. That was why ridiculous things like making tsunami appear out of thin air were possible. Meh. However, just when the wave seemed about to hit, Aries jumped. The jumped caved in the earth. What damn? Aries is strong as shit under Aries and caused a huge shake that even knocked Gantz to the ground as Aries flew up 100 meters into the air. What? It jumped with that huge body? One of the mercenaries Jesus Christ. One of the mercenaries expressed his shock, but Magress wasn't moved. He knew. He knew from the onset that Aries would easily get past a trick like that. After all, he was one of the 12 stars that Lufus herself recognized. Something like that common sense was no detergent to them. They were a group that would easily stomp over even divine presidents. That was why they were named the Conquering 12 Heavenly Stars. However, the next moment, Aries did something that even Magress couldn't anticipate. Oh boy. What's about to happen now? This sheep is doing way too much at the moment, man. This sheep is killing it right now. All things, Aries blasted fire out of the ends of his hooves. Oh wow. And accelerated through the air. His target, as before, was Svel. Levia couldn't dodge since it needed to protect Svel and all the people living there, so it had no choice but to use its body to block Ares' attack. They clashed. Right away, Magress put up a defensive barrier, protecting himself and the city. If Magress was even a little late with that reaction, the two monsters would have crashed into them with all their weight, and everyone in the vicinity would probably have been squished under them. Jesus, man, this is literally turning into a giant kaiju battle. Holy shit. As if to prove that prediction, just the aftershocks of those two huge giants colliding threatened to destroy the capital. However, a straight clash would see Levia with the advantage. Even though there was a gap in levels, it wasn't insurmountable with the advantage in elements. So it's basically saying despite the difference in strength, Levia still holds the type advantage. Ares is on the defense. Or so Magress thought. Oh? But his opinion was quickly proven too optimistic. Something occurred within the rainbow wool that covered Ares' body. That wool stood as if it was being burnt. No, it was in fact being burned. All the wool around his body bursted into rainbow-colored flames, turning Ares into a ball of fire. Mesarif. What? It was a skill that turned one's entire body into fire. What? Is he going to be spinning like a fireball? What are you, Sonic the Hedgehog? Allowing them to apply continuous damage to the enemy through simple contact. It was one of the skills once given to Ares by Lufus, a memento of his comrade who was betrayed long ago. Seeing the skill bared its fangs, Magress felt irritated. How annoying. Magress immediately turned all his attention to maintaining the barrier and defending the city and his troops. He was forced to do so because if he didn't, just the waste heat from the skill would cause those around not of a high enough level to evaporate. So essentially, from the heat alone, they would probably turn to ash. Shoot. Of course, the capital would burn as well. However, that also meant that Magress could no longer take any other action. If he were to undo his defense, although he might be fine, the people behind him would all die. If he were to let up on the barrier even a little to attack, someone would burn and die. Damn, okay, so... Dude, Ares is strong as shit, dude. What the fuck? Dude, Ares is so damn strong. He's literally, the heat coming off of his body is so strong that it's evaporating everything within the vicinity. The only reason people are still alive is because of Magrez. How is Levia holding up? Shh, meh. The two giant beasts once again clashed. They shook the earth, caused wind to blow, and continued to crash into each other, along with their tremendously oppressive presence. Just by moving, the two of them caused the ground to fissure. If one fell, it would cause nearby mountains to crumble, and just the shockwaves would break trees in half. Damn. Again, this battle is becoming a little intense, don't you think? Like that, the two continued to crash into each other. However, Levia slowly started to look like it was coming out ahead. Okay, so Levia is doing fine. It's just the people around them that they should be concerned with. Excuse me. Their elements were water and fire and water. Easy. Looking at that relationship alone, Levia was completely on top. Of course, that was exactly why it could fight evenly, even with a 300 level difference. Levia's charge blew Aries back, causing him to fly back in an arc and crash into the ground. Once again, the ground fissured and it shook. Right away, Aries got up, but the damage definitely remained. It was working. Aries was definitely being worn down. We can do it. We can do it, Sir Magress. We can win. We're going to win this fight. All hail the wise king. All hail the great deity Levia. Behind Magress, the soldiers were cheering. However, none of them noticed they were the ones that were really in trouble. Magress frowned, desperately holding back all the insults and complaints he wanted to yell. This is bad. He's evaporating the very water that makes up Levia's body. Now I can't repair it. Alchemists could use their skills to repair or heal their golems. However, that repair was impossible thanks to the water making up Levia's body itself being changed. There's no getting back what's gone. And on top of that, water made from magic couldn't be used in alchemy either. Water and fire born from the mana weren't natural. They were just phenomena born from burning the mana in the air, transforming it into some other way. And once the spell was over, the mana returned to how it once was. In other words, mana was an all-purpose energy that could become anything in creation. That was what magic engines used as fuel, and it only worked because it burned the mana as energy and discarded. However, alchemy needed to use at least semi-permanent material, so magic that disappeared immediately had no use. Even if Magress were to make a water golem out of water made from magic, it would just immediately disappear back into mana. Damn, Magress really is weakened. Holy shit. The only thing that stayed was his intelligence and int. At the moment, the fight seemed even. However, the one actually with their back to the ropes was the Kingdom of Svel. Even if they managed to win this time, if the war were to persist, Levia would only continue to weaken and become unable to weather the next fight. But even knowing that, there was no other choice but to keep relying on Levia. Forgive me, Levia, while apologizing in his heart to his masterpiece that had been used roughly. Regress once again ordered Levia to charge. Will Aries fall first, or will Levia disappear? With no choice other than to bet on awful odds, at this moment, Magress was having the most bitter experience out of everyone there. Of course, his masterpiece was falling apart. Levia is literally about to, Levia can only last for how long this war continues. At this point, again, yeah, even if it's like, they can win the battle, but ultimately, they're not gonna win the war. Levia will fall if Aries continues to keep attacking, not just right now, but like over time. What do you think of this fight, Miss Lufus? If it's just this fight, then it's Levia's win. However, I replied with my own prediction to Diana's question. At the moment, Levia had the advantage. The relationship of their elements was really big. Unfortunately, I couldn't see Aries' HP or SP thanks to his level of 800, but I could tell that he was taking damage. I did give Aries a recovery skill just in case, but most likely it wasn't catching up. That's why if this fight were to continue, Levia would win. However, Guardian Deity Levia, 500 artificial life form. That HP is crazy though, holy shit. But in the end, Levia is the one who will lose. Levia's max HP itself is getting shaved away. That Aries, what a thing to do. He was evaporating the water that made up Levia's body to weaken it so that he could have the advantage later on. In other words, it wasn't a strategy to win at the moment, but one that would look forward to battles later on. He was allowing his opponent to win right now in order to certainly take victory later. A glance at Aries looks like he's in the depths of madness, but he's actually pretty calm, isn't he? I see. In other words, yeah, Aries never intended to win this fight from the start. He forced Levia to move by making it seem like the final battle and planned to weaken it. I thought it was strange, even though power levels were supposed to have weakened these 200 years, the monsters were still clearly too weak. However, I understood after watching Aries fight. They were expendable bait, ready to be exterminated. They were just there to lure out Levia. It was all Aries' plan after having decided that it would be impossible to defeat Levia in just one fight. Aries would already be fighting while planning his escape, and neither Magress nor Levia would chase too far. Damn. They're the guardians of this country after all. They're pretty smart, so I bet Magress is thinking, this could be a trap. More monsters will come while we're away, so there's no way he'll give chase. That's Aries. He's gotten quite cunning over the years. You were the one who taught him to fight that way in the first place, Miss Lufus. As Diana pointed out, I was probably the one who taught Aries all those tricks. In truth, I did make him fight real sneaky like that in the game in order to help him make up for his low stats. But even I don't remember teaching him anything like how to jump in such a huge body. He probably just grew. I don't know if I should be happy about it or not though. Anyway, it's finally reached the point where I can't just sit and watch any longer. Ooh, Lufus is gonna go in. All right, bet. All right, this is getting interesting. I was about to say, are you just gonna watch as your two subordinates just duke it out like this, or are you gonna do something about it? God damn it! Like Lufus, you're too like it's literally it's looking pretty bad. So you need to do something before the situation escalates. But anyway, I can't expose myself to so many people either though. So I couldn't appear in front of Aries as Lufus just yet. Or rather, if I did, in the worst case, I'd get attacked by Levia from behind. However, I can force Aries to retreat easily enough. We're going, Dinah. Hang on tight. Huh? No way. Are you going to jump down from here? What else is there to do? As soon as I said that, I jumped off. My wings were still stuffed inside my robe. So of course, I was able to fly. I wasn't able to fly, but I wasn't planning to anyway. I allowed gravity to accelerate me and added ESP on top of that to turn myself into a cannonball. Jesus. Quite an entrance, I see. My target was Aries, who was clashing with Levia. Specifically his head. I don't enjoy the idea of kicking a loyal subject, but apologies, Aries. Unfortunately, we don't wish for anything like revenge, and we have no recollection of asking you to do this either. Cool your jets, you fool! Ignoring Diana, who was clinging onto me while screaming, I charged at Ares. I didn't use any skill whatsoever in the first place since I had gotten to level 100. In both the grappler and champion classes, my bare-handed attacks were now permanently damage boosted. In other words, I had passives that I had passives. That's why I didn't need any half-baked attack skills right now. My physical attacks that I've leveled up, in other words, my regular attacks would work just fine. So he's just gonna use basic hits. Like no crazy skills or nothing, just a normal hit. No, just in case I should activate the warrior skill, Blunted Sword Strike. It's a mercy skill that forces the next attack made after the skill is used to never reduce the opponent's HP to 0. Oh, he's trying to make sure not to kill Ares. The fun thing about this skill is that even though the skill is named Blunt Sword Strike, it still works with weapons that don't have a weapon, or even with one's bare hands. Oh, okay. So you don't need so weapon requirement isn't needed. That's cool. It makes you think, wouldn't the name Hold Back or something be more appropriate? Ares noticed me, but it was already too late. Having accelerated more than enough, my kick connected, bearing my foot into Ares' head. Ouch! Blowing him and his giant over 100-meter tall body back. After crushing several mountains, rolling over several times, and then crushing several more mountains in his way, Ares finally stopped, having been blasted back around a kilometer. Damn, Ares got pushed back quite a bit, didn't he? And I noticed Magress and the others turned their shocked gaze towards Diane and I as we landed. Looks like you're having a hard time, Wise King. It must be some sort of fate that we visited at this time. Shall we lend you a hand? You're Diana. And Sflalu? Oh, Gans, it's great to see you alive. Wait, what? Diane's now looking okay back there, you know? Not looking okay. For now, I breath a sigh of relief, having been able to confirm Gans's safety up close. I already knew since I was watching from afar, though. He had wounds on his shoulder and leg, but at that level, they'd probably heal without a scratch. Magress was looking at us suspiciously. Well, that's a matter of course, I guess. Someone as suspicious as me wearing a red mantle just suddenly fell out of the sky and kicked away one of the 12 heavenly stars. He almost certainly knows I'm someone from 200 years ago, but it's not too much of a problem right now. I already planned to show myself to Magress anyway, so the important thing was just to not expose myself too much to anyone else. That power. Just what are you? We shall answer that question at a later date, Wise King. However, there are too many eyes upon us now. We have our own circumstances as well. Understand that we cannot reveal that just yet. That way of speaking. And that voice. No, it can't be. There's no way. Oh, just what I expected out of Magress. He figured it out just from that. As for my way of speaking, well, I'd prefer it if you didn't pay so much attention to that. No matter how much I try to fix it, this pattern just comes out like that. I've been using it for years and years. I've given up on doing something about it already. If I concentrate, I can loosen up my speech a little, but really only a little. Leaving Magress where he was, I lightly kicked off the ground, closing the distance with Ares. I used the Strider skill to instantly reduce my distance from my opponent to 0. Damn. Blink. The class comboed really well with grapplers, so there were a lot of players who took both the grappler and Strider classes. I was one of those. G- ugh, just what are you? As he spoke. What the hell, Aries? You can totally speak? You only been going meh for a while now, so I totally thought you couldn't speak. But man, seeing you like this is awesome as always, even though you were smaller than me when we first met. You've grown a lot. Sorry, but we can't answer that question for now. For you now. There are elves among those soldiers. If we say something we shouldn't, it'll spread among them immediately. So I will simply give you a single order for now. Turn back. I turned back on my pressure, which I'd kept off the whole time. Of course, it wouldn't render Ares immobile, but it should go some way to revealing my identity to him. Even if he doesn't figure it out, it should at least get to him to figure out that I'm someone I'm not someone he can win against with how wounded he is right now. Oh, okay. Basically, in bleach terms, he's applying his spiritual pressure. Pretty much. This pressure, it can't be you. No, you're. Now is not the time to answer that. However, we will say this. We will surely give you the answer you desire. The madness disappeared from Ares' eyes. It seems he did realize my identity. However, from what I can tell, he's still half in doubt and half wanting to believe. He turned his back to me and slowly started to leave while causing the ground to shake. Every once in a while, he turned back to look at me, which was so like Ares in the past. I couldn't help but laugh. Ares? The past? Did I just start thinking like Lufus instead of me? Well, whatever. It was a memory from days long past. Already in the realm of nostalgia, from before Magress was hailed as the wise king. Back when he was still immature and reckless, but adventurer burning with dreams. Back then, almost all elves still stayed cooped up in their forest, and it was rare for one to travel the outside world like him. He was a strange one to his race, an oddball, an eccentric. Magress remembered a lot of those insults being thrown his way. However, he didn't mind, and more than that, he was enjoying traveling the wide world on his own 2 feet. He met many people, parted with him, and then met with more in the next town. Just like that, Magress traveled around the world. It was around then when he met Lufus. Back then, every day was fun. This is what I think. Elves are all cooped themselves up in their forests too much. They should experience more of what this wide world has to offer. They need to turn their eyes outside. I mean, true, imagine being cooped up for several years. I can't imagine that. You would only grow insane, at least in my personal opinion. Granted, they have each other, but still. Magress told his friends his dream as they all sat the same table in a dingy bar. It definitely wasn't a good bar, and the alcohol they offered was, likewise, of the same quality. However, everyone was there. Friends that were gone now, even Lufus, who he cut ties with, was there. Back then, everyone was with him, and they all laughed together. That's why someday I want to make a country where elves can live proudly, not in the back of some small forest, but in a more gorgeous urban place. I want to prove that elves can make it in a country like that. Oh, you sure dream big. You talk pretty big too, don't ya? That's right. Men have to dream big dreams. That they do. After that, the blacksmith king and the sword king joined in on the laughter, which brought everyone else in too. Next, Lufus stood up and declared proudly with her booze in hand. That's too naive, Magress. If your dream is to found a country, then mine is to conquer the world. I'll make paradise with my own hands, one where nobody has to be afraid of devil folks. Dude, who is the devil folk? It's really confusing. They talk about him, but I need more information. The table boiled over with excitement in a flash. Her dream, which was too big to even be called a dream, caused everyone to do a spit take. In response, Luffy's face reddened. Her voice started to raise. What's so funny? I'll tell you now, I'm serious. I'll make you eat your laughter someday. Laughter. Yeah, conquering the world is too much even for you. If you really manage it, I'll even eat pasta through my nose. Alright, you said it. Aloyth, it's a deal. No going back. If I conquer the world, you're definitely eating pasta through your nose. Hey, come on. Don't you laugh too, Magrez. It was fun back then. Everyone talked about their dreams, which were half delusions, something they weren't even sure they could achieve. They laughed together. Although sometimes they played pranks and fought, they'd always make up and laugh about it. But unfortunately, they had the power to make boys' dreams a reality. And once it became real, everything started to go wrong a little at a time. Just where did it start? Just where did we step down the wrong path? Luffy, if it was you, would you know the answer? The fight with ARIES ended, and I immediately invited the nobles district by Magrez. Each of the 4 bridges that led the center were constantly guarded by over 100 soldiers, and it didn't seem like they moved even during that whole fuss. I see. So while the border guards and the mercenaries with Gantz were buying time, they were planning on concentrating their might here to try to counterattack. It's true that his nobles district is the center of the country with its castle as well as its heart. It's the place they can at least afford to be destroyed. However, that also meant leaving Gantz and the others who fought so hard to die. So I can't really praise that behavior. Like this, there would have been no point to the deaths of all those people who sacrificed themselves believing help was coming. Well, I may have my own opinions, but everybody has their own way of doing things. It's not my place to step in. I mean, every country has its way, has its culture, its way of doing things, and how they choose to lead life. An outsider really has no place in saying much. No offense. Well, I may have my own opinions, but oh yeah. Excuse me. Still, I suppose I should have expected this out of the nobles district. It's really pretty. This country itself was pretty well developed and designed. The nobles district just completed the picture. There was not a single shabby looking house, and everything was basically a mansion. Even people walking the streets were wearing fancy clothes like they were going to a ball, and they acted elegantly and fiercely, as if they didn't even know about the battle at the border. Looks like things finally calmed down. Now the question is, what's gonna happen now that Magrez and ARIES know that, well, Lupus is alive? Well, on the point of clothing, I don't really have the grounds to comment. Under my robe is the usual dress too. Let's make something more normal to wear with alchemy eventually. The castle was also very well designed. It's hard to explain, but let's see. It's like if they took France's chambered castle and just made it a size bigger, I guess. The main coloring was centered around a mixture of blues, and the combination of white and blue was really beautiful. As I passed through the castle gates, the soldiers there looked at me dubiously, but I ignored them and followed after Magress. Oh, Sir Magress, I was worried. I was so worried about what would happen to you when you went out by yourself. Oh, I'm so glad you're all right. When we entered the castle proper, a group of well-fed men dressed in uselessly extravagant clothing came to meet Magress. Sounds like the Republicans, or like basically the higher ups, the ones that live well, are well fed, I guess you could say. My instant impression upon seeing them was orcs wearing clothes. Pretty accurate, I guess. I admonished myself for how rude that was. Well, they say obesity is a sign of wealth, so I guess it's not totally bad. More importantly, it's wrong to judge people based on their appearances. You would think that, wouldn't you? But the world does that all the time, to be honest. However, I'm loath to say this, but you should be more aware of yourself, Sir Magress. You and Levia are irreplaceable treasures to this country. That's right. You are several times more precious than anyone in that trade district. Ah, crap. I already want to take back what I just thought. These guys sound like they're worrying about Magress, but I can't feel any actual emotion in it. All I can feel is a sense of relief that they themselves were saved. This is basically the kind of thing you translate it to something like, you and Levia, who protect us, are way more important than other people. Truly, it's great that you're safe. Indeed, this means the country is still safe. Ha ha ha. Those orcs in clothing were saying whatever they liked, but Magress just ignored them and passed through. Dinah and I followed, and eventually we left through the opposite side of the castle and came to a separate mansion. I see. So Magress doesn't live in the castle, but in a separate place like this. Certainly this way is much quieter since he won't be constantly in the middle of all that bustle in the castle. But then wouldn't it have been fine to go around the castle instead of through it? How was it? Awful, right? Those were the country's elites, meant to protect the people, but all they have in their heads is their own safety and the favor of those above them. So, you wanted us to see that? Yes, since it's you, I wanted you to see proof of my mistakes. I want to tell him not to cut through the castle just to show me something like that, but I'll hold back on that. As we entered the mansion, a butler-like person tried to take off my mantle, but I refused. The butler seemed disappointed by that, but still. Proceeded to hand Magress a pair of crutches, after which he took the now empty wheelchair somewhere else. Now then, I was shown to a noticeably fancy room which seemed to be for receiving guests. We've come this far. It should be good enough. There's no one here other than me and no prying eyes either. Would you show me your face? Alright. Urged on by Magress, I undid the clasp on my outer cloak, took off the attached hood, and quite literally spread my wings. As for the feeling of release and finally being free to move my wings, it's hard to describe. Actually, I've been feeling constrained and squeezed this entire time. I'll probably cramp up if I don't let my wings freely every once in a while. It really was you, Lufus. Yeah, it's been a while, Magress, old friend. Now then, this means one of my objectives has been achieved. Now I just need to know if this guy is a player like me inside. Of course, I'd like it if he's the same. Someone also from Japan, for some reason is possessing their avatar and is a comrade in the same position as me. But yeah, it's different. He's different. I understood already. I was made to understand. If he were the same inside, he wouldn't be looking at me like that. The feelings showing through. Magress's eyes were fear and regret, as if he was trying to apologize to me. They were pitiful eyes, like the sort a child would give to their parent after having done something wrong. Oh shit. If he was a player, he'd have no reason to fear me. There wasn't a single reason to regret what he did to me if he was. That fight was started with consent from all sides, and he would know that it wasn't anything near a betrayal. If he truly was afraid and regretful of that fight, then that meant he was a resident of this world. I see. So you're the same. You too are a resident of this world, Magrez. So even you look at us like that. So I guess I'm still alone in this world. In the end, that's just a little, no, really disappointing. Even so, you look at us like that. That was the lonely, quiet utterance that escaped Lufus's mouth. Magrez reflexively looked away. His inner fears and regrets were seen through in an instant, and as it was pointed out to him once again, he lost his ability to speak. You are not the Magrez we know. People change, Lufus. As time passes, they grow stronger or possibly weaker. I became weak, not just in body but in heart as well. Damn. It's a little depressing though, because now Lufus is like, no one else that is a player for this game exists. It's just him and a bunch of NPCs, at least in terms of like literal game mechanics. Back then it was different. 200 years ago it was different. Lufus, enthusiastic and vigorous, flew around the world with our friends and took part in countless reckless adventures. We chased dreams, ideals, ambitions, living like we were running so fast we were almost falling forward. But the present is different. I've grown a lot of shackles now. This heart no longer has the hopes and ideals it used to, and now it's filled only with resignation and regret. Say, Lufus, why is it you only revive now? Was it to come laugh at what we've become? Who knows? If you ask why, we only answered that it was coincidence. Some fools tried to summon a hero and called us here instead. That's all. Magrez knew that he himself was afraid of being blamed by Lufus. However, he also somewhere in his heart wanted to be blamed. 200 years ago, Magrez and the others rebelled against Lufus, ruled and defeated her. Believed that that was the correct thing to do. However, once they'd actually accomplished that, humanity dispersed in a flash, lost all their unity, and were, as a consequence, trampled over by the devil folk. And the country that Magrez made became led by the kind of individuals who made light of lives of their people. As if it was, Magrez couldn't tell who was right anymore. He had even started to believe that he would have been better for Lufus to have stayed in power. Magrez thought that in the end, all that he and the others managed to accomplish was a senselessly betrayed their friend, killed her, and drive the world to the point of despair. Just what about that makes me a hero? Wise king? What a joke. Like this, we're just war criminals, aren't we? I saw this country's library. There sure were a lot of books criticizing the 7 heroes. It's unthinkable for a country where its hero is still alive and protecting it. Was that your doing? Magrez couldn't respond. However, sometimes silence speaks more than anything. The fact that Magrez couldn't respond, that just meant that Lufus' words were correct. It seems like you too have a lot to bear. Rather than praise, you want admonishment. more than respect. It seems you desire contempt. That's... You can't stand the envy and respect everyone around you, no? You're about to be crushed under your own self-hate. But thanks to your position, you can't even complain about your regrets, and their reverence has become a blade sharper than anything else. Is that right? Once again, Magress found himself unable to answer, because Lufus hit the nail spot on. He couldn't say anything. It's funny. While I, the victor, am filled with regret and fear, who lost is just as bold as she was 200 years ago. Like this, it's hard to tell just who won the fight. While you may no longer be the adventurer Magress that we knew, that difficult part of you never changes. It seems you won. Feel proud. You should be more confident, knowing that you defeated such a strong enemy, but instead we find you here feeling embarrassed of your victory, fearful and regretful. Say, Magress, if the victor is embarrassed by their victory, just what should the loser do then? Lufus said before once again donning her cloak. Her pitch-black wings were once again hidden, and her beauty disappeared under the hood. Simply not being able to see her expression caused Magress unease. She might be exasperated. She might be disappointed. She might even be sneering at me behind that hood because I'm in such a sorry state after winning. To Magress, that possibility brought more fear than anything. You have nothing to be embarrassed about. Some people who don't know anything might claim after the fact that that was a mistake, or they should have done this, as if their thinking is correct, but in the end, nothing will grow from being concerned about that. Insults like that made from a completely safe place where they're guaranteed to be safe from a counterattack have no worth. You should simply proceed along the path you think correct. At the very least, that was the kind of man the Magress we knew was. What came out of Lufus' mouth was unexpectedly motivating. Hearing that, Magress thought, she surely isn't ashamed of that fight at all. She doesn't regret a single thing. As a result, it sparked the rebellion, but she was surely proud of even that. Jesus Christ, bro. She's no different from the woman she was back then, whom I admire and wanted to follow with all my heart. Is that your attempt to comfort me? If it is, I am grateful. There is no need for your thanks. We simply gave you a small warning because you were looking far too pathetic, Lufus said before leaving the room. I suppose that means she has no more business here, but that's a matter of course. Right now, she has somewhere she needs to be, above all else, and something she needs to do. Then right now, what I can do is... Well, it's certainly not regretting the past. Magress resolved himself. Lufus, let me see you to the exit. As I am now, I can still do at least that much. While depending on his crutches, Magress walked up beside Lufus. Like that, Magress felt like they'd been able to go back to how things were, at least while they were walking. Magress reminisced back to when they were no shackles. Oh, okay. But instead, days passed when they were simply but adventurers. Okay. I think I'm gonna end it right here. No, we still got a ways to... Okay, so I'm gonna end it right here because we're about to end up on the 1 hour mark. Woo-wee! So now Magress and ARIES know that Lufus is alive. However, Magress is taking it pretty tough, especially considering the books that he had in the library that Lufus read. and then how he's been acting towards Luffy this entire time. Again, is Magress, this is my thing, is Magress regretful of what he's done to Luffy in the past, or is he regretful that it happened? Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those scenarios, like, you're not sorry for what you did, you're sorry, you're sorry that it's coming back to bite you. You know what I mean? He's not bothered by the fact that what he did to Luffy. He's bothered at the fact that karma is finally coming for him. So now he's scared. I feel like it could be that, or maybe he actually regrets his actions, especially how it's carried over in the upcoming 200 years that's already passed. So it makes me wonder what is actually going through Magress's mind. What is going through ARIES' mind? What is ARIES going to do once he finds out that his master is no longer dead, but instead alive and kicking more? Well, I would say more than ever, but Luffy is nerfed right now. Can't do much of anything, at least considering the stats that he's setting off. But anyway, I'm going to end it right here. Thank you for your time, guys. I'll see you guys all next time. Peace. I'm out.